Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Car Chat podcast. And this is going to be a bit of a sort of like a newsy, updatey, what's going on at the moment podcast, a little bit different to the normal ones. I've got Sid North on, who's been a guest on a few times. We chat all the time about cars and whatnot and stuff. And I thought we could have a bit of a natter about some of the things that sort of popped up, new cars and news and things. And we might do it more often. If you like it, please comment somewhere on a social media platform or on Sid or me or Car Chat or whatever. And we'll do more or less, depending on whether you like it or not. All right, Sid, how you doing?
Yeah, well, good, man. How you doing? You all right? You keeping well?
Good. Yeah, good. I think we're possibly working with a bit of a delay. We'll work on this format and we'll improve it. We might end up just phone calling each other and then having mics going. I've heard a lot recently about Ferraris going missing. Have you been following it?
Yeah. In fact, two people I know, their Ferraris got stolen, which is not great. Both were pistas. One of them was recovered and found, but the other one is yet to be unknown. But it's a bizarre thing because obviously usually the cars get regularly stolen, which are BMWs, Golf Rs, RS3s, and obviously the inevitable Range Rovers. They usually get stolen, but a Ferrari to be stolen is pretty crazy. Because if you try and look in the criminal's mind, what the hell are you going to do with it? A majority of them were 488 pistas, which is insane. What are you going to do with it? Are they going to get shipped out, etc.? But yeah,
presumably.
Yeah, I think the software's been found where you can basically hack into them, unlock them, get in, and start the car.
Is it I saw a post about it. It was like, is it pre-22, pre-21? It's around about that time of key. I think there was a key change, and possibly a coding change on the keys. And it sounds like someone has finally cracked the code.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's only going to be keyless entry, isn't it? It's not anything that's not keyless entry before then.
Yeah, exactly. So Romans were getting stolen, 812 Superfasts were getting stolen. There was all sorts really that was sort of, getting nicked left, right, and centre, but it was all in and around central London. I think one of them, so after the two pistas that went missing, and then I think a Roma, because I got the call from a friend on Wednesday to say, look, my car's been stolen. And I'm like, what the hell? And then Roma got nicked. But that Friday, there was a Dubai car, 488 pista. And I think it was arriving here for the owners to obviously roam around central London, do, the usual stuff. And I think like I don't know if these facts are correct, but from what I've heard of is like within a day of it being in the UK, it's ended up being nicked. And then it was found on like a recovery truck going around the North Circle. It's crazy. It's gone in 60 seconds. That's what it is.
Yeah. And it's well thought out. It's all the stuff. Now, I know like Range Rovers go missing all the time. I heard a story. I was listening to another podcast today, and they were saying the excess on like a Range Rover in central London is like 50 grand, or depending on the insurer, because they just get stolen. Like, we know they get stolen, so we're not really going to insure you, or we're going to insure you, but the excess is going to be massive.
Yeah, you leave it anywhere longer than 5 minutes with a Range Rover and it disappears. But I even heard like insurance companies are just refusing to insure any JLR car that's in London. Full stop.
Yeah, it's mental. And I wonder if it's, I don't think it's necessarily JLR specific. I think there is an element. Now, there's obviously something with those cars, but there's an element that they're in, like Range Rovers. People really want Range Rovers. So like abroad or wherever these cars end up, people really want Range Rovers. Whereas the other cars of a similar sort of category aren't seen as quite so desirable. So maybe they're not spending as much time trying to crack them. There's obviously some sort of security thing as well, but I think it's in the middle. What do you think of keyless entry? Because it's all this stuff is down to keyless entry. You never hear, okay, old school style you do, but Nowadays, it's all someone coming, standing either as you lock the car or going up to your front door or your garage or whatever, and just scanning a code with a laptop, and then bish bash bosh, car's gone.
Yeah, I mean, there's a convenience to keyless entry, isn't it? The fact that you can put your key in your pocket, open the door, get in the car, etc. For one, I like just a normal key personally, because I'm always either leaving the key somewhere. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable when I'm in a keyless car to have the key in my pocket. I'd rather just put it in the center console or something like that. Just leave it in there. Or let's just say you clean the car. I don't know if you ever clean the car when you've got keyless entry, for example. It's happened to me many a times, right? Washing the car, got the key in my pocket on the outside, and then all of a sudden you jet wash a bit of the door handle, and then it decides to lock, and then the wing mirrors are going in and out constantly, and you're like, oh, for goodness sake. So then you put the key inside, leave and go and do whatever you got to do. I'm always losing keyless entry keys. It's hilarious. So no, I'm not a big keyless fan.
Do you lose other keys?
No, I don't lose other keys. I'm not that bad, actually. But when it comes to keyless keys, I am a nightmare. It's just that you're always misplacing them or something like that. So I don't know. I just like a key that you tell.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And just have,
And like as you say, with all these keys, right? If you've got them in your pocket, and let's just say you're in a whatever car, to be honest, if I've got more stuff in my pockets and I sit in a car, especially if it's a bucket seat, that's just another thing that's like pressing against your leg.
Yeah,
and invariably, if it's a key, you're going to press the wrong buttons. Like my Mercedes key, I walk around and the boot opens. I don't know what it is about the modern Mercedes key, but the amount of times the boot of my car has automatically opened. I could be sitting in the lounge, I could be in a shop, and you just come outside like, oh, cool, ready to go. But yeah, you get a keyless one, you sit in the car, and then you're like, right, I've got to put it somewhere. Ferraris do it quite nicely. There's a little slot. You put it in the slot, and then it doesn't move anywhere. But no other manufacturer does. So you either end up putting it like in the Mercedes. The most obvious place would be there's two cup holders in front of you, and then there's a wireless pad for your phone. So if I want to put my phone in the wireless pad, I can't put the key there. And then so it goes in one of the cup holders. And then I've got a cup holder I can't put a cup in. Like, what? It's just so annoying.
Then you got the door pocket cards. But then what an odd place to put a key. I mean, and most likely it will have another bottle of water or something in there. So yeah, I could leave it with keyless entries, I'll be honest with you. If I was speccing a new car and I had the option to delete keyless, I would. I don't see the benefits personally.
100%. 100%. Like there's the odd time. And you get cars where it works really well and doesn't work so well. And like sometimes it's good. You've got this, you're carrying loads of stuff. You've got the key in your pocket. You just walk up with the car and it opens. Or if you've got one of those systems where you kick your leg under the back of the car and it opens, that works great. Apart from, I always park up next to my house, like really, really close to a wall, just because of the drive size and whatever. So I'm always squeezing around the back of the car to get in the house. And invariably, my leg will go under the back of the car and the boot will either open, but more annoyingly is when it shuts. And then you're trying to dodge this boot as you're trying to get out of the way and get in the car. It is a right old faff. It's whatever.
Not for me.
I don't know how we've got here. But keyless entry, I don't see much point in it. But anyway, some manufacturers, and I think a lot do now, the key basically goes dead after 5 minutes or something.
Okay.
Like most modern ones, all the German ones, so people put their keys inside a Faraday box inside the house.
Yeah.
Some people do, or in like a little pouch or whatever. Well, actually, I think it's only a few minutes after you've like not moved the key. The key knows if it's been moved. Then they stop sending the signal.
Exactly.
So that does solve some of the issue. Clearly, some of these are not doing that, or there's extra steps. If you're stealing 300 grand cars, I'm sure you're going to go into all of the depths, aren't you?
Well, it's just a bit unheard of, isn't it? I mean, first off, 488 pieces aren't a car that you see regularly. So to steal one, it's obviously going to get found. amongst 812s and Romas and whatnot. So, you know, you either got to be extremely stupid or ballsy to go out and steal something. It was just a bit unheard of, isn't it? But I think Ferrari are rectifying it, aren't they? They've quickly got on the mend to try and patch this software. So obviously, you know, because look, let's be honest, right? Okay, if you've had a car stolen, it takes the love out of that car. You just think, okay, right, I've got
Sure.
it recovered. It's come back. What's the chances that it might get stolen again? Do you know what I mean? And there's loads of inconveniences if
Yeah.
it gets
They know
stolen.
where it is.
Yeah, yeah. So it's, you know, and you do look at that. I look at that when I search for new cars. And to be honest, if it's a car that gets regularly stolen, it could be the best car in the world. It just takes the love out of it. It really does.
It does.
It can happen to anyone or any car. You know, it's one of them ones. But, you know, if it's a car that you know is going to be left somewhere and you're not too sure where, you know, you're not too sure whether it's going to come back or not, it's just not pleasant. You don't want to be sitting at a dinner or you're out with friends and the whole time you're just thinking in your head, is my car all right? Is it going to be there? So it takes the love out of it. And obviously, as a result, you know, people will probably not want another model of that car again, whatever that might be. So I think
And you
Ferrari...
can get a real inkling when you call up the insurance and they say, you've got to put a steering lock on it. It's got to have all this other stuff that you've not come across with other cars you've owned. And they're like, is this unique? And they're like, yeah, if you had a different car, it wouldn't be a problem. I'm like, okay, I don't know whether I would necessarily want to own. That's it. Like, I like Range Rovers, but I personally, I'm not 100% sure I want an SUV, but if I did, I'd have a Range Rover, and I'm not getting a Range Rover because security is a huge part of it. Like it's in the back of my mind, so it must be in other people's minds that like this is a problem.
Well, yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, the insurance costs have gone astronomically up, which as a result, people just go, well, look, I'm not buying one of them. I'm going to buy a different SUV, which will then affect the manufacturer. So they'll have to do something eventually, you know, because it's not like it's the first 2 years Range Rovers have been getting stolen. This has been going on for ages. So it's definitely...
I can imagine as well, if you're putting cars on a boat, like we know this happens with some cars, they get stolen and then within an hour and a half, they're in a container on a boat off somewhere. If you've brought a left-hand drive car into London, if you've flown it in or whatever, that's the dream for a thief.
Yeah.
Because they can tend it anywhere. Right-hand drive's a bit more of a faff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, they've got options in the market, haven't they?
yeah, exactly. Plenty more places they can sell it. I've actually written GT4 RS, but that is not the topic. It's the Spyder 718 Spyder RS, I believe, is the correct name for this new Porsche. Have you been looking at all the stuff? I have to say, I had like an initial, that's interesting, and then I'm getting a bit more interested as time goes on.
I've seen the picture on Instagram Andy Poininger put up, and then I saw a little bit of pictures here and there, but obviously I've not read the nitty gritty of it, but it's obviously going to have 500 horsepower, flat six, GT3 engine from the GT4 RS. It's essentially a GT4 RS Cayman, but without the roof, and it looks a damn sight prettier, if you ask me. Just such a good.
It does. I'd like to see some. I'll just run through the specs or the stuff that I've heard today anyway. So it's the same engine as GT4 RS, so 493 bhp. I say that as if I don't know. I've literally got it written in front of me. 450 newton meters of torque. I don't know what that is in foot pounds. 40 kilos lighter than the Spyder. I don't know what that compares to the 4RS, but they basically reduce a lot of stuff. So the Spyder has some electronic stuff in the roof mechanism. I think you press a button and it unlocks itself, and then you just push it back and then shut it down. Whereas this one's a full manual, like roll it out, click it on, put it back. There is another option which will reduce another 8 kilos. not 100% sure where you do this, where you can remove the whole roof mechanism. So no roof. You save another 8 kilos. I feel like you're losing quite a lot by having no roof at all. At all.
Yeah, not sure I'd tick that box.
Yeah.
I don't know. Don't have
what else we got?
breakfast.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that could lose a couple of kilos and gain that extra performance. Not that you're really going to feel it. And then setup wise, it's been set up to be in the middle of a Spyder and a GT4 RS. So the GT4 RS I hear it's like pretty full on, pretty hardcore on the road. Possibly too much. I don't know. Depends what you're looking for in your car. If it's like a intense 30 minutes, spot on. Drive it for 10 hours, possibly not. So I quite like the sound of that, because I know with the 981 Spyder, and I presume 718 Spyder, the normal one, it was softer than the GT4.
Yeah.
Because the GT4 had all the funky suspension, whereas the Spyder didn't have so much. It just had the engine.
981 was.
And that carried on to 718. And 718, but 718 got the GT4 suspension.
Yeah.
That's some niche box the Spyder chat. But yeah, the 981 is like the softest, and it's probably more road. Then 718 has a lot of the elements that were in the GT4, which makes it a bit sharper, etc. Blah 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 blah. Probably absolutely spot on. They do have OPF filters. People do remove them. They seem to jump up some silly amount of horsepower. Have you heard any of that?
Yeah, I've heard that there's some horsepower jumps just through exhaust. Like people are getting like 20 odd horsepower out of it just from exhaust, which is quite a big jump.
Which is, if you go on any sort of pseudo forum performance thing, people are like, oh, I've put an exhaust on my car and I've gained on a naturally aspirated car, and they go, oh, I've gained like 40 horsepower. You're like, nope, you haven't. Like, no, that doesn't happen. That does not happen with naturally aspirated engines. But I think these new, like the 718, the performance is very similar to the 981. But I think to maintain that with all of these extra filters and whatever, they had to do so much so that if you change some stuff, you got a properly massive bump. It's got ball jointed suspension. So is that rose jointed suspension? Is that the same?
Rose jointed,
basically solid.
Yeah,
I guess. But then slightly slackened springs and dampers. It just sounds. I looked at it and was like, I wish it was a manual. And then I was thinking about it. I was like, yeah, but it's still gonna be pretty good. It's got really short gearing. It's got that engine. It's got the roof down. It looks pretty cool. I've not seen a non-Weissach pack one. So the Weissach pack is the carbon bonnet, some other carbon bits, carbon little side splittery type things. You can have magnesium wheels. But when you get the carbon bonnet, you get the carbon stripes. And I think I personally on like the GT on the 4RS, they just look. I just can't unsee like Mansory or Tuner or something like that when I look at those cars.
Does look
what do you think?
a bit. Yeah, I probably would like to see it without Weissach. I'd probably go without Weissach, just a cleaner colour with it. But it's great though, isn't it? Because you got one of the greatest engines, or one of the greatest sounding engines or producing engines ever built, with the roof down, and you can get to hear it.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't get any better than that.
No, and when you think about it, an interesting one would be a comparison between a Speedster and a Spyder RS. Let's just assuming they're both. I don't think can you have a PDK Speedster? You probably can you?
Trying to remember. I think.
I think you must be able to.
No, I don't think you did.
I don't know.
991 it was a 9912 Speedster, wasn't it? I don't think you can. No, I'm pretty sure.
Really?
I'm pretty sure it was manual.
Maybe that is a separating factor between I mean, the Speedster that came out ages ago. Oh, maybe they are all manual. It's difficult to remember these things.
Yeah, I'm struggling.
I
Gonna be
wouldn't be
seen.
surprised if they came with both options.
I thought it'd be just like the touring of the 991 generation, just manual.
Yeah, but the Touring is not Gen 1. 991 Gen 1
There was no
Touring.
touring in Gen 1. It
Was
was
there
in Gen
one?
2. Yeah, so
Oh,
991
sorry. Yeah,
2
it was Gen
GT2.
2. And
Yeah,
but you could do Touring with PDK, couldn't you?
I think it's now.
I don't know. I feel like you could. Maybe not. My knowledge is
My knowledge isn't great either, but I'm pretty sure it was 992 touring you can now have as a PDK or a manual. And the previous touring was a manual only, but the GT3 Gen 2 you could have as a PDK or a manual. So I
yeah.
presume Speedster was just
Yeah.
manual. Yeah. So
Yeah, and then and then GT4 was manual, and then they released the PDK, which also had shorter gearing because it was PDK. It's got more gears and whatever, but it was geared
yeah,
a bit shorter, which actually I think made it a bit more punchy. You're losing whatever. You're losing some stuff
yeah,
with the gear change, but you've got that extra punch and the shorter gearing, so it
yeah. And
probably
if you're
felt
doing regular track days,
noticeably faster.
yeah, if you're doing regular track days, I'd say well, it's more efficient, isn't it, for track day driving? As much as I love a manual gearbox.
Unless I'm doing the only time I really think I miss a manual, and if you had the GT3 PDK, this would be fine, is low speed dicking about, essentially.
Yeah,
Like if you want to do a clutch kick, obviously you can't do that in a PDK car. Like I was at the Porsche Experience Centre 2 weeks ago in a PDK Carrera S, which actually was lovely. I massively rate that. Just a really nice car. And I was sort of thinking to myself, GTS versus Carrera S. And for me now, Carrera S is what I want. Just from like a definitely. But I was messing around on their low grip surface, and with the PDK, it's actually just quite tricky because you can't give it enough of a hit in one go to really upset the rear. You get like a gradual power delivery, which then means you get a bit of understeer. And then you've got this understeer power situation. It's only at low speed. If you're high speed or high at moderate speed, you can get around these things. It's not such a problem. But it's definitely, I mean, it's about as niche a situation as get, isn't it? Low speed, trying to kick the back end out with a clutch kick. But the PDK, the GT3 PDK, you can do that paddle thing where
that's
you pull the paddles
it. Yeah,
and it'll rev up and then you can dump it.
that's a really cool feature. I've tried that before, and it's instant. Really, it's pretty much just
Yeah.
your partial throttle, pull the paddles in, and then literally let them go, and it gets you into a clutch kick. I think it's across the board on all GT cars now, which is
Yeah.
which is a cool.
But then, so Speedster versus 718 Spyder RS, one's manual. We're just going to say that. I believe one's manual and one is PDK. So that is a dividing thing between the two. But if you remove those, we've got the same engine pretty much in each. They're not quite the same, but they're very similar. Except one is rear engined, one's mid engined. One doesn't have, actually, neither of them have back seats, so they're two seats. And then one's a 991, which is a bigger car than a Boxer Spyder. Like for me, in that, let's just ignore the gearbox for a second. I'd have a Boxster all day long in that situation.
I agree.
Like a small back road blast.
Yeah, it's the smaller car, obviously, and now the Boxster's got the engine it should always have deserved. Let's be honest. And it's in a better package. It's a much more better balanced car. You're just going to know that instantly. And from the pictures and I like spider-shaped Porsches all the way back to the 987. I think it just looks pretty. And you don't really say that about mini Porsches. I think there's good-looking Porsches, but, you know, the Spyder or the 718 RS, that's a pretty car.
Yeah, it is. No convertible 911 is like a good-looking car.
Nah.
They always look a bit funny.
They look odd. Targas look
They
better.
do look really odd.
Targas
look better.
Yeah.
Would you ever go Targa though?
Myself?
Yeah.
Nah.
No, I don't think I could do it.
No, I wouldn't have it.
Too heavy.
Yes, was it 200 odd kilos or something ridiculous? So
something like that.
I'd go.
They look nice.
It looks great.
991, I think I really like the look of it. I don't really like the look of the older ones, but 991, I like the look of the Targa for sure. It's a very nice looking car.
Very good looking car. I think there are other manufacturers that do convertibles better than Porsche. Until this came along.
For the Spyder RS, so I need to sort of wrap it up. If you are watching this and you've probably seen a Top Gear video, you might have seen some others. There aren't really many others. There is a Proninger Andreas video that I don't think has been posted on the internet yet. But if you go on the Porsche Media, and you can just search this, Porsche Media website. In fact, I will put a link to this video in the description, or at least to the page where you can download it. Because then you can watch him do a walk around of the car. I presume it's going to come out at some point. I think maybe it was in the launch. But that's I think that's one of my favorite things about a GT car launch is hearing Andreas walk around it. Sometimes with Henry Catchpole, but sometimes himself, just pointing through, talking through all the things.
Yeah,
he would be. It's just great to listen to.
I enjoy listening to Andreas go on about stuff. Funny story about 4 years ago. Was at this. I think you came with us once. There's this pub that are not far from Goodwood, and Andreas Freuniger was there, and I asked him a question about GT. This was when GT3 was PDK only, and I remember asking him, will it ever be a manual again? And this was just when 911R was sort of just released, and he just sort of smiled and left it at that. Didn't say a word. And lo and behold, Gen 2 GT3 manual came along. But the technical highlights, you can just see the passion in that man. He loves it. Everything has been well thought out, well cared, and it's those Porsche GT cars are built by people that just love driving, and you just know it.
100%. And we all have those reference points, don't we? We're like, there's certain people you follow on social media or write for a magazine or whatever. And you go, I think what I like, they like. And therefore, if they like it, I think I'm going to like it. And he's one of those people because I reckon he has a lot of fun. He looks like he enjoys driving. He clearly enjoys driving. He clearly enjoys cars. He clearly has a good time. And when he's like, this is fun, I believe him. And I want to have a go for sure.
Yeah. He could release a lawnmower GT3 and you'd be like, yeah, I want that. That's how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's a few more rumors actually of cars that are coming, and I can't really fill out too much information on these, but we've got in the Top Gear video, this was interesting. They said this is the last NA Boxster. They did not say this is the last NA 718, which means there is one or more Caymans left. So we could be getting another Cayman. Another Cayman? Yeah, another Cayman with this engine. Which is interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense because obviously Boxster and Cayman, the next generation, are going to be electrified. It's going to be electric.
Yeah.
So I can imagine like what was deemed as the entry level Boxster and Boxster S or Cayman S will be electric, and maybe an internal combustion engine from a GTS and then a GT product. So yeah, I could see
Yeah.
that happening potentially.
Yeah. I think the rumors I'm hearing are for another R, another Cayman R,
Okay, like a dialed
which
down
I
RS.
presume would be a dialed down RS, maybe a manual gearbox in a Cayman. It's going to be a bloody great car, isn't it? That
Be
one.
the one, isn't it?
If that comes through, that's going to be wicked.
Yeah, that's going to be the
Like
one.
that would be that's the one that you compare with your sort of GT3 touring type situation and go, right, how much 911 do I like? How much 911 stuff do I want? Is actually a mid-engine Porsche car just going to be bloody amazing? I think we've got another 911 coming. So we've got an ST, which I believe is a similar
Yeah,
sort of vibe to what this Cayman R is going to be, but in 911 form, which is interesting. So it's going to be RS, but more road car, less wings and
nice.
stuff,
That's what you
which
want.
is quite like an interesting concept for a car at that point. Like maybe if they put a manual gearbox in it, I don't know whether they will. I don't know whether I actually almost want a manual gearbox in something. I'd like to try it, but if you're going to have the hardcore mental car, why not just have the wings and everything on it anyway? Says the guy that quite likes GT3 Tourings. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one. It's going to be awesome. Obviously, you're not going to be able to get hold of it. Some people will. Unobtainium, but I'm
Yeah,
glad they're making this stuff.
yeah. It's just nice to see that those sorts of models exist. I think it's down to preference and choice. I think doesn't you know. I suppose if it's more of a road car focus, I suppose it doesn't need any of that crazy aero, right? But I suppose it can have a
Yeah, or
couple of bits
less.
here and there. Maybe like a
Yeah.
ducktail wing or something like that. So
I
let's
think they
see.
try and move a lot of it off the back if they can to more underneath. Because you want some. But if you're not going to wag it around a track, then you kind of just change the whole focus of the car and go, right, it's a road car. Kind of the Gordon Murray vibes of like, it's a road car. So what's going to be fun on a road versus what's going to be fun on a track? And how do those two align? I think it's, anyway, it's going to be interesting. And when we're on the topics of 911s, let's just hash out one more little topic. It's probably almost getting a bit old now. Dakar. What do you think of the Dakar?
It's a cool car, isn't it? It's a cool car. I think it's just one of those cars that almost falls into the category of sports SUVs. Um, it's great.
Yeah,
It's great that something like that exists. How many people are going to use it? No one. I suppose you could argue it's the fastest car to get around central London, right? Because you could muller every speed hump in it. That
yeah, yeah.
that's how I'm looking at it as. Um, but yeah, it's more of a car. Saudis, Dubai, I don't know, out in the desert somewhere in Utah. It's cool
Yeah.
though. I think it's cool that it exists. It's an awful lot of money though, isn't it? It's a lot of money.
It is. I think it's a base price 180 something maybe,
Yeah, that's true.
which will be interesting. I think they've done a ton of development on it, like a lot of development. It's not just a lift kit. They've
Oh
been
yeah, yeah, yeah.
honing it around off road for months and months and months and months and months. Um, and that's kind of why it is what it is. But I kind of, I actually wish Porsche made their cars more expensive. I love that they don't. And actually, I don't know, if you made every GT3 200 grand, you might, as a customer, go, if you were getting one new sort of thing, you might go, you could probably spend a bit more money on the interior and a bit more. Because when you compare, let's say, a Ferrari interior, now their prices are going up and up and up. A Ferrari interior is more special than a Porsche interior. But these cars are just selling out like.
they're flying out the door, aren't they? They are flying out the door. Yeah, I am with you. I think, Porsche's cars feel way more expensive than what the numbers suggest, even cutting out the GT
Mm.
products. If we're just even talking about Macan, Cayenne, that sort of
Yeah.
stuff, all of them across the board on the range. But yeah, they get sold out. People can't get hold of them, and then you got GT4 S's going for more than double on the
Yeah,
used car market.
250.
Yeah,
I think is the going at least advertised price on a GT4S, and it's the same on a. Actually, if you wanted GT3 Touring 992, I think they're about 210, so they've come down.
okay,
And
dropped a bit.
presumably GT3s are also in line with that, like the normal ones. 991.2 is, I think, about to cross over to be more expensive or possibly more expensive. That's quite an interesting one when you think about it. That the older generation, which I think is a better looking car,
Agreed.
is more expensive than the new one, even though you still can't really get. I think there's probably more new Tourings, 992 Tourings, than 991s.
Yeah,
But,
because
you know,
991 came a bit later on, didn't it? After
yeah,
GT3.
and I think there was like 50
Yeah,
or 60 in the UK. That's the number I've heard of 991.2 Tourings. Anyway, yeah, cool cars. We'll see some around. I'm looking
yeah,
forward to it. I'm just looking forward to this, like, this sort of last era of combustion engines. Now, it might not be the end. Hopefully, it won't be the end. But
hopefully.
Porsche seem to just be going, right, let's just do it. Let's just make some mental stuff right up to the end, celebrate our anniversaries. Happy days.
Yeah, we could be coming to. I don't know if Porsche has a peak, because just when you think they've topped it, they just go above and beyond and do something else.
Yeah.
But we could be coming to the peak of just seeing as a whole, from every manufacturer, making some great cars. I mean, we're all praying,
Yeah.
the ICE moves on, continues on.
Yeah.
But
E-fuels and
let's
whatever.
just, but if it's a worst case scenario, let's just go out of a bang.
Yeah.
Just make some crazy shit.
Absolutely. I've got a weird, it feels shameful to admit it. I sort of like the idea of an EV Cayman. Not only because I like the idea of driving one around town. Now you could say, why don't you just try something else? Exactly. But I think there's something I'm looking forward to trying one. Not necessarily would buy one or whatever, and I can, when they come, we'll be able to see it out. But I'm interested in the sort of EV Porsche small sports car experience. Like, what is that going to be? Because it's not
I
going to
mean,
be rubbish, is it?
now thinking of it, you're right in one sense, because if you've driven, so Caymans before GT4, what it is now, they've always had such a good chassis that it's never had the sort of engine to go with it. The
No.
engine's never felt quite punchy enough to go with that extremely beautiful, taut, balanced, poised chassis. And I think it going electric, because obviously you get that instant torque, might actually change the way of the dynamics of how that car drives. However, the trade-off is weight. So obviously there's going to be no doubt that it's going to be heavier.
Yeah, it's. I think it's going to be interesting. We'll see. It's going to be what it's going to be. I'm not hopeful that it's going to be more of an experience than a Spyder RS. Like,
Of course not. Of course not. But then
not.
at the
But
same time, I think I would rather that than the flat four boxer engine of the current one.
interesting. Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the way it sounds. Yeah. So
Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of that. But
it going electric, I'm not that upset, because I just thought, well, the flat four
yeah,
in
yeah.
in the 718. Yeah.
Final thing on the rumor mill, and then I think that's pretty much us done. Is the next 911? I don't know. Okay, this seems to be a little Porsche episode, whatever. There is sort of rumors and Nürburgring videos and whatnot that I can find. It's going to be an NA hybrid. This is, yeah, it might not confirmed, but like quite possibly 992.2 might be NA hybrid, which
I
I
like the
think would
sound of
be.
that.
I think I like the sound of that. I think that's
Yeah.
interesting. How much heavier is it going to be? That's a good question. We don't know. So it will be heavier, but combine. The thing is, the 992s, even the turbo ones, they sound pretty good. Like in the car, they're not the
Yeah,
same as.
they sound
So
completely
obviously
fine.
not a GT engine, but maybe if you could make a little 9,000 RPM revving a Carrera S that rev to like 8.5 or 9
Perfect. With
with
all of its road
some
manners.
EV shove at the bottom end. That's
I'm
appealing.
in. I'm in on that. Well, look, it worked for the 918, right?
Yeah.
918 was NA hybrid. So obviously,
And that had a rowdy NA engine.
it had a race
Like,
car V8, didn't it?
pretty awesome, that V8. I just mourn the loss of the mid-engined kind of supercar that never came, that we knew could come but never came, and it was there, and it probably had that engine in it. It might not have had that engine in it, but it could have had one of the flat sixes that got done by the turbo or whatever. Just would have been epic. I want Porsche to make more cars.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much due now for a 918 replacement, isn't there?
Yeah, but like at this level, not that level. 200 grand, not £1 million.
I know. I mean, could you imagine Porsche making a mid-engine car? It would be. I mean, it's
Cayman.
got big shoes to
Boxster.
fill. Yeah, I know. Yeah, but like, it's
I know
got
what you
big
mean.
shoes to fill. Like, because you got, to me in that world, you've got stuff like, well, 720S McLaren, which is just bonkers. So, yeah, that would be very, very interesting. You never know, though. Porsche are one of those manufacturers that say, "Oh, we're not doing so and so things," and they end up making it. So
Yeah.
you never
Yeah.
know. You never know with them.
We'll see. Right. I think that's a good little wrap up of all of the news
Yeah,
bits and pieces.
everything that's going on.
Good chat. See you in the next
Very
one.
good chat. Same time again next week. More Porsches.
Same time again next week. More Porsches. If
Basically,
there's been more announcements.
every Porsche announcement, there's a podcast.